Hello everybody and welcome to a new video here on MedSolut In the last episode of the climate research series, we were talking about energy transition and the goals of the EU in this point. One interesting factor for reaching these goals is hydrogen. It has a lot of possibilities and offers some really nice features. The problem is that they aren't used to the fullest right now. But how may that be possible? And what do racing cars have to do with this? Let us clarify all that today. Let us shortly remember what I've said in the last video. Talking about hydrogen, it is a fact that the whole value chain in production, components, economics, storage and so on needs to be improved. But why has to be improved? And what has to be improved? How far are we from green hydrogen? Let us check that together, starting with the first 3 points I mentioned in the last episode with the components, productions and economics. On industrial scale, hydrogen is actually created by reforming natural gas. And the hydrogen created this way is called grey hydrogen. Because for 1 ton of hydrogen produced by this, 10 tons of carbon dioxide as waste dump are created. Not really what we would call a sustainable option. And this is why the hydrogen needs to be produced under electrolysis. And not only by this, especially by the use of renewable energies during the electrolysis. This is the way to lead to 100% sustainability. Using electricity. Water is broken down in its 2 components, hydrogen and oxygen. The electrical energy is transformed into chemical energy and stored in the hydrogen. Using a fuel cell, it is possible to recover this process and make use of the electrical energy. The role of this process is small but growing. To produce hydrogen that way is 3 times as expensive as extracting it from neutral gas, but as well only half that expensive than 10 years ago. And with decreasing costs for renewable energies, the electrolysis will become more economically efficient. Using different processes, hydrogen could be stored in several forms, from gas to liquid, and all of these processes offer their own advantages and disadvantages. Hydrogen in gas form could be stored after compressing it under high pressure. And it is a low-cost solution for smaller storage quantities and therefore mostly used in mobile applications such as passenger cars, for example. Another option is to store the hydrogen in liquid form. Therefore, it needs to be stored at minus 253 degrees centigrade. And this is especially economical for longer saving quantities and long distance transporting. The only disadvantage is that it could come to an vaporization of the hydrogen caused by heating. For the storage and transport of really high hydrogen amounts, the LOHC method may be one of the best ways to go with in the future, because in this case, the thermal oil binds the hydrogen, so it could be used in a similar way to diesel fuel afterwards. What is offering a lot of possibilities, chances, options and so on for its use. But the problem is that the carrier materials are mostly produced out of fossil fuels. So we're not talking about a sustainable way. If they would be produced by synthetically material, this would be a really nice option. Okay, for shortly summarizing this, let us list up the points where the development needs to go forward, resulting from what we were speaking about earlier. Number 1. Renewable energies have to be used for the creation of green hydrogen. Number 2, this needs to become more economically efficient. Therefore, the renewables have to be produced on a larger scale. Number 4, the infrastructure needs to be built up more than it is actually. And number 5, the last point, the storage possibilities need to be improved as well. Especially promising things like the LHOC method needs to become sustainable. What are your ideas? Where do you see the most potential of improving the research in this part? Tell me in the comments below and let us discuss together. I think it is important to improve those developments because there are a lot of parts where hydrogen is and could be more sustainable and efficient. Hydrogen trains. A fuel cell inside them is providing electric energy. This way, the train is able to drive independent from the overhead line. If this technique should be used more, there needs to be an infrastructure with more fuel stations. It could be used to fuel airplanes using a fuel cell. Airbus, for example, is working towards the goal to release the first commercial hydrogen aircraft until 2035. Cars, buses, trucks, and so on. They as well could be provided with hydrogen using fuel cells. Toyota, for example, is working on a hydrogen using racing car, and this month they are willing to try it at the 24-hour race of Fuji. It could supply heat for steelworks, cement factories, and a lot of other industries as well. In general, it's useful everywhere where big amounts of energy are needed, and for them, producing the most carbon dioxide, it is the alternative. At this point, I think with the process in providence and research, there could be a lot of parts where hydrogen could be really useful and more sustainable, as I already mentioned. At this point, tell me please if there are some projects you are interested in details. Then we could work on the process of this series together and provide you the information you are really interested in. Support us with hitting subscribe button and bell if you like to. I'd be happy if you do so. And if you're interested in more information, go to the blog at medsolut.com. It is the first link in the description as always. And otherwise, I have to say goodbye and have a nice day.